Okay, so we have the Tweel Brim Hat, and I've cast on stitches so that I can show you how I've written the pattern to connect in the round. So you have, you know how when you connect in the round sometimes with your stitches you can get a gap, right, where the two needles come together. So I've just cast on some stitches, enough so that I could onto my provisional cast on so that I can show you the rest of these techniques. But I have my circular needle here ready to go, and what I want to do before I connect in the round is I just want to make sure that everything is lined up. So how do we do that? Well, I'm going to make sure that all the threads are hanging down and the working yarn is hanging down. So everything is hanging down. And then I'm going to go around and make sure nothing is twisted. So I'm going to just turn so all of these stitches are upright, facing the same way, and nothing is twisted when I join. And so that looks really good. What would a twist look like? Yeah, so like that. You see how all of a sudden my nice line has twisted here. Well, that's not going to work for us when we join in the round. We're going to have problems. So we want to make sure that we've just, everything is lined up. I've got my provisional cast on, the waste yarn to the bottom, and all my natural stitches for the working yarn are laid there on the top. And then this is where my working yarn finished, and this was the beginning. Now in the directions for the Tweel Brim Hat, I've said, make sure nothing is twisted, and then we're going to join. And what we're going to do to join is, just come here, and I'm going to get my working yarn right there behind. Okay, so everything was lined up. I'm giving it a double check look, and then I'm just going to continue knitting. But what I've said to do to avoid this, see how this space, there are lots of techniques for making sure you don't get this gap, but I've said to knit 2 stitches, and we're going to tug those up, and I'm also going to tug, you see I'm tugging up the yarn from the beginning where I cast on. So I'm tugging that up and tugging those all up. I just knit 2 stitches. They're over on to the right needle now, and I'm going to take my stitch marker and put it on, and there is where I'm going to start the beginning of the row. So now my beginning of the row every time is going to be 2 stitches over from this join, and we are not going to have that gaping every time because we've offset it, and we're just gonna ignore that there are 2 stitches there, and off we go to start knitting. So that is how you get this started in knitting in the round. Okay, so I want to show you that I'm just doing that first setup row, and we just finished. I showed you that I moved those 2 stitches, did those 2 stitches, and added my stitch marker, and now I'm knitting that very first row, and I've come to where my join was, and so I'm supposed to knit all the way, finish the row, which is to the marker, and I've come here, and remember, this is the gap we're trying to close up. So here's how I'm going to handle this gap. I'm going to knit it, and I'm going to come down here and make sure that that initial cast on thread, this one, the short one, is just pulled tight, and that's gonna close that up. And as we go, and then I'm kind of tugging a little bit harder on this stitch, but since I've moved over 2 stitches, and now let's do that last stitch, and I'm to my marker, we're going to find, right, that we're not going to have that problem. But just to let you know that when you come back around, you finish that first row, you're still going to have to do some snugging and tugging till we get established and and can close that gap for a few times. So here we are, we're ready now. We've done the setup row to start the hat. Now I'm ready to do the directions, say rounds 1 through 72, work the tweed slip stitch pattern 12 times. So I'm gonna, this is my color 1 for this particular hat. So I'm going to now do my rounds 1 and 2 of my tweed slip stitch pattern.